Ladies and gentlemen and children of all ages, this is a second take on why the Great Pyramid sets within the boundaries of the God pod, which is this circle here, which is actually denoted in Ezekiel. This is the representation of wheels within wheels. Now I can tell you that that's the representation of wheels within wheels, and I can prove it to you beyond any shadow of a doubt, because inside this seemingly white circle, and between the outside edge of the white circle and the inside edge of the white circle sets another line in the center. It is known as a delineation line, technically speaking. However, this delineation line, as I will call it for the rest of this dissertation, is denoted in Ezekiel as wheels within wheels. This outer line being a wheel, the chainmail in theory being a kind of wheel on the outside. This could be the treads of a tire. Then you have the outer perimeter of the circle. Then you have the inner delineation line, which is dead center in the line. And then you have the inner line. This is Ezekiel, wheels within wheels, but not the necessary lesson that we were going to go over today. That's just a little side matter. The reason that we're going to discuss the God pod, because as you know, everything in the God pod represents life. You have plant life, you have ocean life, you have land mass with earth and all the nutrients necessary for life. You have the heavens with the rain, the clouds, the dew, and what's more importantly, without light, without the light of the Lord God shining from this section here, which I call the mercy seat, but in another parable in the Bible, this turns into heaven. This entire white section turns into heaven, although it is the mercy seat. And although some people say, well, the mercy seat is supposed to be made out of gold, well, let me assure you folks, if you go back into the tree of language 3,313 years ago, you will see that the word white, which is this part, and the word gold were identical and interchangeable in nature. Therefore, this is the golden mercy seat that sits upon the throne of the $1 bill, which is the Ark of the Covenant. And the reason that the Lord God, or what we perceive to be God, placed all of these pictographs on the reverse of the $1 bill and the obverse was so that what we perceive to be God or God-like may or may not necessarily be God, but it is God from our limited perspective. There are beings in this universe that can pretend to be God to control societies so that there isn't mass chaos. These beings have controlled this world for tens of thousands of years. There are pyramids that are 30,000 years old. There are ruins from the Aztecs, as my friend Jeff from American Bandwidth pointed out to me, that are 40,000 years old, and some of the stones weigh 100,000 pounds. No. 40 tons? Yes. More? Yes. Some of them weigh more than 80,000 pounds. Some of them weigh more than 200,000 pounds. Because there have been societies on this earth that dwarf our society. And these beings that place the pictography on the reverse and obverse of the $1 bill, who watch my videos, by the way, they know that this pyramid was placed inside the God pod, or they do now know that I am professing this theory, and none of them have disagreed with me, and I've been in contact with a few of them at this point. They know that the God pod, a.k.a. the first 17 verses of the book of Genesis and the Great Pyramid, they know why it was placed there. And I'm going to tell you why the pyramid is placed inside the God pod. The eye of the Lord God, which is represented here, is not the eye of Horus. Perhaps some of these cultist societies have hijacked some of the symbolism that they have pilfered off from the actual remnant species that existed on this world and have existed on this world. Perhaps they have pilfered some of the knowledge. But let me tell you something. They don't have full knowledge of what's going on this bill. This eye is the eye of the Lord God, and the radiance coming from this eye is coming from a portal, and this portal is connected to the central portion of the $1 bill, and this is all stated matter-of-factly in my book, word for word. It covers several pages. No one has denied it. No one has put forth an alternate theory, and no one that I've spoken with doesn't say that my theory about this isn't pure genius, to put it mildly. So this Great Pyramid and the eye above the Great Pyramid were placed inside the God Pod because this pyramid represents, do you know what it represents, folks? Let me try to break it down for you in an easy methodology. The Great Pyramid that sits inside the God Pod, what you see before you, is in fact, or was in fact, the very first covenant that the Lord God made after the Lord God, or what we perceive God to be, after the Lord God, or what we perceive God to be, after the Lord God, or what we perceive God to be, allowed Atlantis to be destroyed. It then waited several thousand years and allowed the remnant society of Atlantis to build the Great Pyramid. And in fact, the Great Pyramid itself is the original Ark of the Covenant, or the original Ark of the Covenant as I profess it to be. And this is in my book as well, in great detail, which is why my book is 1,990 pages. And although the service fee to put the book on your desk is a mere $12.25, it has all of this information in it so that you can follow along with my postulations, which to date have never been challenged by these so-called theologians. Now, I say that the Great Pyramid was the original Ark of the Covenant. And when I say the original Ark of the Covenant, I say that this entire green side of the reverse of the $1 bill is the Ark of the Covenant to scale in sacred geometry. And once you find the key, which is in my book, to the scaling of this object, you will agree that this is in fact, there can be no doubt that this is in fact the Ark of the Covenant. Now moving to the, you're looking at the mercy seat now, but moving to this, the reason that the Lord God allowed the Great Pyramid into the God Pod, because it represents something that is close to the nature of God itself, and that is why it appears within the God Pod. It represents something that is close to the nature of God itself because it represents the eye of God looking at us from the portal of heaven. Now, I apologize for moving the camera, but I'm like a multi-talented person here. The eye of the Lord God, with the radiance from heaven, this being heaven, associates itself with the Genesis because this is the first covenant that God gave mankind in our understanding of recorded history. It's probably not the first covenant that these godlike beings and or entities had with man. It goes back to the Mayans. It goes back to the Aztecs. It goes back 40,000 years. It might go back 40 million years. Moving past that, this covenant, A.K.A. the Great Pyramid, was the first Ark of the Covenant. Then you read the Bible and you read the $1 bill as the Great Pyramid being the first Ark of the Covenant. Then you read the book of Genesis as being the beginning. Then you read the pyramid as the beginning of the book of Genesis or the book of life. In one, they are one and the same for all intent and purposes. Then you see that this is the Ark of the Covenant. But then again, the Great Pyramid represents the first Ark of the Covenant. as opposed to the entire reverse of the $1 bill, which is the Ark of the Covenant. So the Great Pyramid represents the beginning and or the first Ark of the Covenant. The entire reverse of the $1 bill represents the Ark of the Covenant. The circle or sphere on the left-hand side represents the book of Genesis and or the beginning, and so you have the beginning with the Great Pyramid, the beginning with the book of Genesis. Then the Lord gave, after this first Ark of the Covenant, then the Lord gave this world the second Ark of the Covenant to the Hebrews, and then he ends the world with the evil seed of death that can only be seen when it is rotated, because once the Lord God turns the wicked upside down, which it does in the book of Revelation, it does turn the wicked upside down, and at that point what you have is you have the end of the world, because the world becomes dominated by this Forks Indian chief with a bow and arrows in his hand that's in control of a nuclear detonation and is flying off up into the air with this nuclear detonation, which represents the end of the world as we know it, ladies and gentlemen. And at that point, ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you, this is Michael Fazio from Key Largo telling you I need to get a bigger camera.